Hi guys, welcome back. Beautifully Belly here with another video. So this is a planned video. This video is going to be called My Foster Care Story. So I was in foster care from the ages of 8 to 21. I aged out at 21. For people who don't know, in America, if you just graduate high school and you don't further your education, they age you out at 18. But if you continue your education, you can stay until you're 21. So that's what I did. I was in college, so they let me age out at 21 instead of 18. So yeah, I went in at age 8. Me and my brothers. It wasn't just me. It was me and my brothers. They were placed together. Well, when we first went into foster care, we was all together with my mom's dad. And then I couldn't stay with him because he was a man, right? So my brothers was with them, and they sent me with my foster mother, another relative, I'll say. So after that, my brothers ended up going to a group home. They were placed together, and I stayed with their relative. I would say I was with their relative maybe a month before I was sent to a group home. I don't know what happened, something about my parents and that individual. I don't know if my parents didn't want me with them or whatever the case may be. I ended up in a group home as well, but I was by myself. So I was in the group home, and I remember it was a lot going on. Like, you're talking about anxiety with the noises and the lights and a whole bunch of other kids and staff, multiple people in the room. You know, it was a lot. It was a lot. So what I did was, I think I was there for 1 or 2 months at the group home. I eventually broke down because my whole time there, it was just like crying every day, all day. It was not good. It was a lot of fights. It was, kids misbehaving, and I'm not saying that they shouldn't be, because look what's happened. They're in a traumatic situation, right? So when things like that happen, kids act out. So I called my foster mother after 1 or 2 months, and I asked her to come and pick me up. She picked me up. I'm not sure what happened, but she picked me up, and it was just a lot. I remember the first thing that I changed when I went into foster care was I stopped sucking my thumb. Me and my brothers, we grew up sucking our thumbs, and it was like a big comfort for us. But for whatever the reason was, when I got there, I knew that I had to change that immediately. Because when I went there, like, people in our family, the state thought that everything was like copacetic, everything was fine. But when I first went into foster care, it was very hectic, right? It was a lot of people telling me that my parents didn't care about me, that they didn't love me, which made things 100,000 times worse. I actually ended up failing third grade that year. I remember it because of everything that was going on, so I had to repeat third grade. It was a lot. And a lot of people assumed that because I was placed with a relative that everything was fine, but it really wasn't. Like, yes, I was in a better situation than I was with my parents, but the situation that I was in wasn't, I feel like, wasn't 100% like the best situation for a kid, right? So, after I came back from the foster home, I remember, like, the person that they placed me with, and they said this from the time that I got back all the way to the time that I aged out. It was like, if you can take this little check that I get for you and you can go discover America. It was always like, you can leave. You know what I'm saying? It was like a constant, you can leave thing. So I felt like I didn't want to go back to the foster home, right? So I did what I needed to do. I conformed. I flew under the radar. I tried to stay out of the way. You know what I'm saying? I tried to do any and everything that I could to prove that I was worthy to stay with this person. Is that how it should have been? No. Because when you're in foster care, you're not asking to be there. You're not asking to live with strangers or somebody else. You're not asking to be a burden. And people shouldn't make you feel that way. But that's the way I felt, right? I'm not saying that this person didn't make sacrifices, or they made a sacrifice by letting me in their house, but it was like I went 8 to 21 with no affection, no love, no I love yous, no hugs, no kisses. That's a lot for a child. And I would say that that affected me when I got older, because it was like when I started to have kids, it was like I need to show them as much love as I possibly can, right? I didn't get to see my brothers when I was younger. I didn't get to see my parents often. And yes, they had their own things that prevented those things from happening. I'm talking about my parents. But as far as siblings, I feel like the United States really fails when it comes to keeping siblings together, or at least arranging for them to have contact. You know what I'm saying? Because again, my brothers had each other, but I was by myself. You know what I'm saying? And because that happened, it affects our relationship to this day. Like, yes, we're brothers and sisters, but I can go years without talking to my brothers and vice versa, right? I can go years without seeing my brothers and vice versa. And it doesn't have an effect on us because we're used to that. That became our new normal, right? I've tried to have a relationship, you know what I'm saying? But it's just those foundational pieces that were supposed to be there, we don't have it. You know what I'm saying? We just don't have it. So it's like, yes, I have siblings, but I don't really feel like I have a relationship with them. It's like a lot of people are surprised that I have a relationship with my parents. Well, I have parents, but my father is deceased now. I always told myself when I was in foster care that I know I belong to these people and these are my family members. And when I get out of here, I'm going to try my best to reconnect, right? Again, I did get to see my parents a little bit here and there, but it wasn't like it was supposed to be or should have been. Even if it wasn't me going back home, like to my house, but us going to lunch or meeting up somewhere and spending time together, those things wasn't arranged for me or my brothers. When my brothers got older, I think around 16 or 17, they were able to go back home, but I wasn't. I never got a chance to go back home. I'm not saying that that's a bad thing, because it was a lot. It was just a lot. But yeah, a lot of people in the family that I grew up with, which I consider my family, and the reason why I said the family that I grew up with, because when I turned 30, and a lot of people in my family don't know this, but I know it, and my foster mother knew it. When I turned 30, my foster mother called me, and she told me, although she, build a bond with my kids and build a bond with me, she told me when I turned 30 that I wasn't really her grandchild, and we're not blood related, and how I was a disappointment and a failure to her. And that hurt me so bad, because it was like, why would you wait until I'm 30 years old to tell me this? So what did I do? I said my piece. I didn't disrespect her. I didn't say anything rude. I just said, you're entitled to your feelings. And if that's the way you want to feel, I'm going to back up and I'm going to remove myself. And that's what I did. Yeah, it was a lot. And the thing about the state is that they assume that because you're with a relative, that they don't need to prepare you to find housing, or, you know, they just think that this person is going to let you live with them after you age out. And that's not the case. Like, after I turned 21, by the time I was 24 or 25, I had moved out already, because I had my son, my second son, on my 21st birthday. So by me being 21, that means I aged out, no more checks, right? I had my son the next day, the day after my birthday. And I would say within a month of having him, I was put out. So at that time, I had 2 kids. Me and my 2 kids were put out. So I had to ask to come back. I had to kiss ass. That's the truth. I had to kiss ass to come back. I was there for a little bit. I would say, I don't remember, maybe a year or so before the next incident happened and I was put out again. And then it happened again after that. So it was like, they didn't make sure that I was going to be stable, right? So at that point in time, I had to make the executive decision. I'm not by myself. If I was by myself, I could be homeless. I could be in the street. I can find somewhere to go. I can learn how to take care of me. But I have 3 kids who are dependent on me, right? So that's how I ended up in low income housing. I had to find somewhere to go. That's where I went. The state didn't help me. I had to wait a year to get my place. And it was hell. During that year, I bought as much things as I could so that when I got my own place, that I would be set, or at least the kids would be set. I didn't care if I had to sleep on the floor, this, that, and the other, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, it was just like everybody thought everything was fine. But the fact of the matter is that I always felt like a foster kid in my family, the family that I was raised in. I always felt like the black sheep. And people don't realize how much trauma being in foster care brings you, whether it's a little bit of time or a long time. It's a lot of trauma. So for me, again, not having a relationship, not having a strong relationship with my brothers, that affects me. Not having as much access to my parents that I would have liked to have, that affected me. Having my own kids and being scared that they were going to go into foster care, because they always say that, you know, if you're a foster kid, you know, they look at you as a high risk adolescent or child, whatever. And then it's the other thing with, if you're in foster care, you know, it's a 50% chance that you might graduate from high school. If you're in foster care, the percentage even goes lower when it comes to furthering your education. When you're in foster care, it's another statistic that say your kids will end up in foster care. So like, I'm in foster care and I'm hearing this stuff. So I'm trying any and everything, trying my best not to have my kids go into foster care. So I literally was in hypervigilance from the time I had them until the time they turned 18. You know what I'm saying? Because I didn't want my kids to go through what I went through. A lot of my friends that I grew up with, that I used to hang out with in school, they didn't know I was in foster care. I didn't tell them because it was embarrassing to me, right? I remember the state used to come and take me to the doctor. They would take me to the doctor. They would take me to the eye doctor, take me to the dentist. My foster mother didn't do it. The state would do it. And it was embarrassing. Like, people know that you're a caseworker. You know what I'm saying? This is not your family. So I learned how to take myself to the doctor at 15 years old so that I didn't have to be embarrassed. I remember the first caseworker I had her name was Miss Dobson, and she was the only caseworker that I've ever met that actually seemed like they cared about what was going on with me and my brothers. I don't remember CPS being involved before we were taken away. I remember there was an incident. The next day we went to school. The teachers found out. We all had to go to the nurse, and we were taken away straight from school. That's how it went. I would say the first month that I was in foster care, I didn't hear from my parents. I didn't hear from my brothers. I didn't see anybody. And the person who raised me, who they placed me with, it was a relative, but I didn't know this relative. So it was a stranger to me. So it was just like, I think America as a whole needs to do better when it comes to foster kids, because you never know how what they're going through is going to affect them. You have to care. They're kids. They're not adults. They cannot fend for themselves. And it's like they take you from your parents and then they just throw you out to the woods. That's what it seems like. That's what it felt like to me. So I hope this made sense. I really, really tried to be as clear as I could, but so many emotions is running through my body right now because it's like, yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So that's all I got, y'all. If nobody told you that you're enough today, you are enough just the way you are with no strings attached. And if nobody told you that they love you today, I love you. So until next time, guys, peace, love, and blessings. Until the next one.